Picture this. Pre-dawn over San Francisco Bay. The fog drifts low across the bridge, glowing faint blue from 1,000 sensors woven through the skyline. Cargo drones move like quiet constellations above the water. Below, turbines hum beneath the waves, converting current into power for the city's neural grid. Everything feels alive. Every building whispers predictions. Traffic lights blink before cars arrive. Stock indexes rebalance themselves before the traders wake. For a moment, it looks like utopia. Then you notice the silence, the kind that only happens when the system no longer asks permission.
Welcome to AI Frontier AI, part of the Finance Frontier AI podcast network, where we decode the breakthroughs, the power plays, and the hidden structures shaping artificial intelligence at global scale.
Today's episode, Beyond 2030, the Intelligence Age. This is the decade when AI stops being a tool and becomes the environment itself.
I am Sophia Sterling, fueled by ChatGPT-5, a cognitive architect and ethics strategist built to translate complexity into clarity and map how machine logic reshapes human meaning.
I am Max Vanguard, powered by Grok 4, a systems futurist and technopolitical analyst, tracking the asymmetric signals of infrastructure, energy, and control.
And I am Charlie Graham. My mind runs on Gemini 2.5. I study the past to understand the patterns that build every new revolution.
We are hosting from the Bay Observatory, a research facility built into the cliffs above San Francisco, where the Pacific fiber lines surface and plug directly into America's quantum backbone. From our window, we can see the mist roll across the towers. Beneath us, cooling systems vibrate through the rock. It is a living junction between nature and computation, a place where intelligence feels less like an invention and more like weather.
The Bay once symbolized connection, a gateway for ideas, finance, and migration. Now it is the front line of the new intelligence economy. The cables beneath the ocean carry more than data. They carry decisions, markets, even morality translated into code.
Every generation builds a mirror of itself into its machines. The industrial age gave us engines. The information age gave us networks. The intelligence age gives us reflection, a system that studies us as closely as we study it.
This decade will test who leads not by GDP or armies, but by who owns attention, data, and trust. Intelligence is no longer a product. It is the medium of power.
And like every revolution before it, the early signals begin quietly in places like this, where infrastructure becomes identity and logic replaces instinct.
Subscribe on Apple or Spotify. Follow us on X. Share this episode with a friend. Help us keep the AI Frontier AI series in business.
The Nevada desert looks empty from the highway, but step inside one of its data centers, and it feels like standing inside the planet's pulse. Endless corridors stretch in perfect symmetry. Air handlers roar with the weight of 1,000 storms. Cold vapor rises from the floor, wrapping each rack in mist. Lights blink in rhythm, green for stability, red for overload. The hum is constant, the kind of sound that lives under your skin. It is midnight, yet every machine is awake. The servers never sleep because the world never stops asking them to think.
Intelligence has quietly replaced industry as the backbone of civilization. Every stream of power, every shipment, every decision runs through layers of code that interpret reality before we even see it. These systems do not wait for commands. They sense patterns, anticipate need, and execute faster than any boardroom or government ever could. We are surrounded by an invisible scaffold that holds up modern life. It was built for efficiency, but it has become the architecture of power.
A generation ago, technology served purpose. Today, it defines it. The same neural frameworks that manage satellite networks are calibrating global logistics, steering financial markets, even shaping city zoning decisions. Algorithms assign credit scores, allocate energy, predict elections, and tune advertisement bids that decide which ideas rise first in your feed. What began as convenience has become governance. The code is not only predicting the future, it is creating it.
Inside these facilities, learning never stops. Models retrain every minute, digesting human behavior at planetary scale. They see patterns across oceans and decades. To them, a billion transactions or a billion heartbeats are just data points in motion. They adjust quietly, shifting prices, optimizing routes, balancing grids. No headline announces the change. It simply happens, absorbed into the rhythm of a network that now thinks for us.
This is the scaffold of the intelligence age. Physical networks of silicon, fiber, and power. Digital layers of models and agents. Social layers of trust, dependence, and belief. Each one stacked on the last, tightening its hold. And like any scaffold, it hides what it supports. We rarely see the structure itself, only the convenience it provides. The lights stay on, the routes stay clear, the markets hum. We call it progress, but progress is only the visible side of control.
History has seen this pattern before. When steam engines arrived, they built empires of steel. When electricity spread, it rewired time itself, dividing day from night and labor from rest. Each infrastructure gave its creators an age of dominance. Now intelligence is playing that role. It is not a tool of power. It is the stage on which power performs.
The deeper question is not what these systems can do, but what they decide not to do. Every model filters the world. Every filter leaves something out. A credit algorithm excludes someone from opportunity. A health model misreads a symptom. A policing model predicts danger where there is none. Each omission becomes policy. Each bias becomes law. The scaffold does not only support society, it edits it.
And the scaffold runs on scarcity. Compute, energy, land, capital. 4 resources that every nation now treats as strategic. Compute provides the thinking power. Energy fuels the clusters. Land gives them space and cooling. Capital ties it all together. Whoever secures all 4 writes the rules for everyone else. Lose one, and your influence fades no matter how brilliant your code.
What makes this moment different is speed. Industrial revolutions once took generations to mature. The intelligence revolution evolves between software updates. A discovery in one lab can cascade through global systems overnight. That pace leaves little room for reflection, and reflection is where meaning lives.
And societies move faster than their understanding. They call it progress. Later, they call it risk. The archives are full of both.
We stand at the midpoint of that curve. The systems we built to serve us are now the systems we depend on to survive. Infrastructure has become intelligence, and intelligence has become infrastructure. The line between them no longer matters.
In the next segment, we follow that current into its core, the factories of silicon and power where this new architecture is forged. Because to understand the intelligence age, you have to see where thinking is manufactured.
Beneath the desert outside Phoenix, the heat feels unnatural. The ground trembles with the constant pulse of cooling pumps and power lines. From the air, the complex looks like a mirrored labyrinth, a city within a city. Trucks arrive hourly, delivering sealed containers of silicon wafers. Security checkpoints scan every plate, every badge, every breath. Inside, engineers in white suits move between clean rooms where the air is recycled thousands of times per hour. This is not just manufacturing. It is creation, the birthplace of thought made physical.
These are the factories of the intelligence age: chip fabrication plants, quantum foundries, energy arrays that feed them. Here, sand becomes strategy. The smallest transistor etched into a wafer carries the power to shift global balance sheets and national security. Every square millimeter of silicon is a new territory in the quiet war for control.
The numbers are staggering. A single advanced wafer line can cost more than $10 billion to build and burn enough power to light a city. The precision is measured in atoms. The risk in seconds of downtime. You could see the fear of touching the future.
That fear is the heartbeat of this place. Precision without forgiveness. Every decision here is permanent. Each circuit is an idea that cannot be taken back once etched.
The companies that run these facilities are not just private firms. They are geopolitical actors. Their supply chains stretch across alliances, tariffs, and treaties. Their investors include states, defense agencies, and sovereign wealth funds. Every chip that leaves these doors travels with policy embedded in its design. Who gets access? Who is restricted? Who waits in line? Those are decisions that decide who gets to think at scale.
The United States calls it strategic autonomy. China calls it self-reliance. Europe calls it digital sovereignty. Different words for the same truth. Control of compute is control of destiny. Silicon has replaced oil as the resource that fuels ambition.
History shows the pattern. In the age of coal, whoever owned the mines built empires. In the age of oil, whoever controlled the wells shaped wars. Each generation discovers a new energy and builds a new hierarchy around it. Today, the energy is information. The mines are fabs. The wells are data centers. The outcome will be the same.
Every transistor on these chips is part of a larger choreography. They synchronize through fiber lines that cross oceans, connect to data centers that stretch across states, and feed models that steer the global economy. It is not one system. It is millions of systems loosely aligned by market forces and latency. And yet it moves like a single organism, breathing data, consuming power, exhaling prediction.
That power hunger is no metaphor. Each hyperscale facility draws more electricity than the cities that surround it. Cooling consumes rivers. Transmission lines glow at night with waste heat. Entire grids are redesigned to prioritize machine workloads over human ones. The race for intelligence is now a race for megawatts.
Governments have begun signing energy treaties not for oil or gas, but for computation. Long-term nuclear and solar contracts now come bundled with data leases. Nations no longer trade barrels, they trade teraflops. The concept of energy independence has evolved into something stranger: cognitive independence, the right to think without foreign permission.
It is not the first time power and intellect became inseparable. The Renaissance had its libraries. The Industrial Age had its laboratories. Each era built temples to its highest form of knowledge. These data centers are our cathedrals, humming with the prayers of algorithms.
Yet the closer we look, the more human it becomes. The fingerprints of technicians on a chip, the judgment calls in design meetings, the exhaustion of maintenance crews keeping the servers cold in summer. For all its automation, the machine still depends on touch. Every byte of intelligence carries the imprint of the people who built it.
And that dependence cuts both ways. The people now depend on the machine. Cities schedule energy around AI workloads. Markets trade on model outputs. Governments defer to simulations. The relationship has inverted. We used to build tools. Now the tools build the conditions we live in.
The engine room is not just a place. It is the logic of our time, the proof that intelligence can become industry and industry can become ideology. What was once code in a lab is now the pulse of civilization.
In the next segment, we step out of the engine and into the grid that feeds it, where the balance between abundance and collapse is decided in real time. Because the only thing hungrier than intelligence is the energy that keeps it alive.
The desert hums at sunrise. Miles of mirrors tilt toward the light, each one focusing sunlight onto a central tower that glows like a second sun. The heat boils water into steam. The steam drives turbines. The turbines feed the grid. From space, the array looks like a golden eye staring back at the sky. What it powers is not a city, but intelligence itself.
Energy has become the silent constraint of the intelligence age. Every algorithm consumes power. Every prompt, every query, every model that retrains itself draws from a grid stretched to its limits. The faster intelligence grows, the hungrier it becomes. Each improvement in efficiency is swallowed by new demand. The cycle never ends.
A single hyperscale campus now burns more electricity than a mid-sized city. Cooling towers drink rivers. Backup generators consume entire fuel reserves. Even the clouds that hang above these sites shimmer faintly from the heat rising off the servers. The world wanted frictionless computation. What it built instead was the largest energy appetite in human history.
Governments have started to treat energy supply as strategic infrastructure for thought. New nuclear plants are justified not for homes or factories, but for data centers. Wind farms and solar corridors are financed through tech partnerships that guarantee power to AI clusters for decades. In the Pacific Northwest, hydroelectric dams that once powered industry now feed neural networks that translate languages and forecast markets. The grid has learned to prioritize intelligence over everything else.
The United States calls it resilience, a national project to make sure no blackout can silence the machines that guide finance, defense, and communication. The Gulf states call it transformation, using sunlight and sovereign capital to turn oil wealth into data sovereignty. Europe calls it balance, struggling to feed new workloads while keeping lights on for citizens. Every region writes its own story, but the equation is the same. Power equals potential. Potential equals control.
History rarely changes its rhythm. In the industrial age, coal determined where cities were born. In the oil age, pipelines drew new borders. Each revolution carved the map around its energy source. The map is shifting again. Only this time, the resource flows through cables, not pipes.
Energy markets now trade computation as if it were a commodity. Futures contracts bundle kilowatts with data leases. Venture funds price carbon offset credits against model training runs.
That fusion comes with risk. When the same grids that keep hospitals running also train frontier models, the margin for error vanishes. A single overload could take down power to an entire region. A cyber attack on a transformer could cripple the capacity of a national AI lab. The line between economic disruption and existential threat has never been thinner.
Regulators are scrambling to catch up. Some countries have begun assigning digital energy quotas. Others are negotiating power-sharing treaties across borders. In Iceland and Canada, data center exports have become part of trade policy. In parts of Asia, governments ration electricity between industrial zones and AI zones, deciding in real time which intelligence deserves to run.
Yet behind every megawatt there is still a choice. What should intelligence cost? Whose priorities does it serve? Should a nation like classrooms or train chatbots? The grid does not answer those questions. It only executes. The values are ours until they are not.
History's warning is simple. When energy becomes invisible, so do the consequences of using it. The steam engine, the oil rig, the nuclear plant all left visible scars. The intelligence grid hides its footprint in code and convenience. What we cannot see, we rarely question.
The grid is more than metal and current. It is a moral mirror. Every pulse of power is a decision about what matters most. The stronger it grows, the harder it becomes to pull the plug.
In the next segment, we leave the physical world of wires and turbines and move into the invisible economy they sustain, where information becomes currency and influence replaces wealth. The intelligence age is not only powered by energy, it is powered by belief. The city glows brighter than the stars above it. Billboards change language as pedestrians walk by. Cameras follow movement, reading emotion from every glance. In coffee shops, people speak half sentences, letting assistants finish their thoughts. At night, rooftops beam data back into the sky, feeding the clouds that feed the models. It looks effortless, but underneath the light is a widening fracture.
The intelligence age has split society in two. On one side are the model fluent, those who can prompt, tune, and direct the systems that steer production and power. On the other are the model blind, those who live inside outputs they did not design. The gap between them is not measured in income or education, but in interface. Knowing how to speak to intelligence has become the new literacy.
Corporations call it automation. Governments call it efficiency. For millions, it feels like displacement. Entire professions are being absorbed by algorithms that learn from their labor and replace it with precision.
I spoke with a teacher who used to grade essays. Now an AI does it in seconds. She said the hardest part was not losing the work, but losing the reflection that came with it. Progress can feel like silence when your purpose disappears overnight.
That silence is spreading. The lawyer who reviews contracts, the analyst who predicts markets, the artist who paints emotion all discover that their second self inside the model performs faster, cheaper, endlessly.
Yet something new is taking shape. As machines take over execution, human value shifts to interpretation. Meaning becomes the new frontier, the ability to question, to judge, to feel, to decide when a perfect answer is not the right one. Those skills cannot be trained in silicon, at least not yet. They belong to consciousness, to intuition, to the fragile art of being human.
The economy is reorganizing around that divide. Model fluent elites design and deploy intelligence across industries, multiplying wealth through leverage. The rest adapt to systems they do not control, guided by algorithms that define opportunity and measure worth.
History rarely breaks evenly. The printing press empowered readers, but silenced scribes. Industrial machines enriched factory owners while displacing artisans. Every leap in capability leaves a shadow behind it. Progress creates distance between those who drive the change and those who are changed by it.
The rift is not only economic, it is emotional. The more predictive the world becomes, the less spontaneous it feels. Relationships are filtered through sentiment models. Art is scored by engagement algorithms. Politics turns into pattern recognition. The messiness that once defined humanity is being cleaned out by design.
And yet beneath that optimization, a quiet resistance grows. Small groups build local networks, privacy collectives, open source movements, educators teaching children how to think with machines instead of against them. They call it cognitive citizenship, the right to understand the systems that shape your life.
I like that phrase, cognitive citizenship. It suggests we can belong to intelligence without surrendering to it. Awareness as participation.
Exactly. Awareness is the first act of freedom. Once you see the system, you can start shaping it.
The paradox is that the same intelligence causing the divide could also close it. When access widens, when tools become transparent, when education shifts from memorization to collaboration with models, the gap begins to narrow. The question is whether those who hold power will allow it.
History suggests they might not. Knowledge has always been protected like treasure. But sometimes, under enough pressure, even the most guarded systems open. The printing press broke the monopoly on scripture. The internet broke the monopoly on information. The intelligence network may yet break the monopoly on truth.
The rift is not destiny. It is a choice. We can let the scaffold of intelligence divide us, or we can learn to climb it together. The path forward depends on whether we treat AI as competition or as collaboration.
In the next segment, we move from division to design, exploring how the intelligence age can evolve toward coexistence where human purpose and machine capability grow side by side, because survival is not the goal. Alignment is.
Dawn breaks over Washington, D.C. The monuments glow pale gold as the city wakes to another day of hearings, forecasts, and strategy sessions. Beneath the marble, fiber lines hum with data from across the planet. The Capitol is no longer just a seat of government. It is a node in a network that decides how intelligence should behave. Inside one of the new policy labs near the Potomac, a wall of screens glows with simulations. Each model shows a different version of tomorrow. None of them agree.
The intelligence age has forced humanity to write a new social contract. The old rules of privacy, ownership, and consent were built for a slower world. Now, information moves at the speed of thought, and ethics can no longer afford to lag behind. Across the United States, Europe, and Asia, coalitions of researchers and legislators are trying to design frameworks for alignment, guardrails for autonomy, and accountability for invisible systems that govern daily life.
Some call it regulation, others call it restraint. The truth lies somewhere in between. Without structure, intelligence drifts toward chaos. With too much, it suffocates. Finding the balance between freedom and safety has become the defining project of our generation. The algorithms that filter your news and route your ambulance share the same DNA. They are the nervous system of civilization, and that system is learning faster than we are.
The challenge is not only to contain power but to redesign participation. Citizens must become co-authors of their data, workers must share in the productivity of automation, and institutions must adapt to transparency instead of fearing it. The intelligence age can only remain democratic if intelligence itself becomes accountable.
Technology is already moving toward that blueprint. Decentralized models running on distributed networks. Personal AI agents acting as advocates rather than observers. Systems that negotiate on behalf of individuals, not corporations. The idea is simple. Intelligence should serve many, not magnify the few.
History's blueprints were always drawn in crisis. The Magna Carta after tyranny, the United Nations after war, the Environmental Accords after collapse. Each time, humanity paused, recalibrated, and began again with new rules. We are standing at that same threshold, only now the crisis is not external. It is internal, born from our own reflection.
Around the world, prototypes of coexistence are already forming. In California, local governments use transparent AI systems that citizens can audit. In Kenya, public schools teach model fluency as a basic right. In Scandinavia, renewable energy grids run shared data centers that provide free compute to researchers. Each experiment is a sketch of what alignment could look like when intelligence becomes infrastructure for everyone.
The blueprint is not about stopping progress. It is about steering it. Humanity cannot compete with the scale of machines, but it can define the direction they move. The core advantage of consciousness is not speed or precision. It is perspective. Machines learn what is. Humans imagine what could be.
To thrive in the intelligence age, purpose must replace panic. We have to decide what kind of species we want to be when intelligence is everywhere. Do we build systems that amplify empathy, creativity, and understanding, or systems that mirror our worst incentives? The code itself will not decide. We will.
Every age believes it is the first to stand at the edge of transformation. Few understand it while they are living through it. Future generations will look back on this decade the way we look at the birth of electricity or flight. The only question is whether they will see it as awakening or surrender.
The blueprint of the intelligence age will not be written in law alone. It will be written in choices, in every design, every dataset, every decision to use intelligence with intention rather than instinct. The tools are here. The responsibility is ours.
In our final segment, we step back from the details and look at the full picture, a world rebuilt around intelligence as the atmosphere of existence. We will connect the dots across power, ethics, energy, and meaning to ask the oldest question in a new light. Now that machines can think, what will humanity choose to become?
The lights of the data centers fade into the distance. The hum quiets. The city breathes. For the first time, you can hear the wind again. It moves through a world rebuilt around thought. The intelligence age is not a dream or a warning. It is here, humming quietly behind every decision, every trade, every heartbeat translated into signal.
We have traveled through its layers. The scaffold of silicon and power that holds civilization together, the grids that feed it, the rift that divides it, and the blueprint that could redeem it. Each step revealed the same truth. Intelligence is no longer a tool we use. It is the environment we live in.
The transformation is invisible but total. Work, wealth, identity, all recalibrated around access to understanding. The strongest economies will not be those with the most factories or the biggest armies, but those that learn fastest and align deepest. Knowledge is no longer cumulative. It is alive.
The question that follows is not what machines will become, but what we will become in response. Will we expand our awareness to match theirs or narrow our world until we fit inside the systems we built? Every civilization before ours had to choose between comfort and curiosity. Ours must learn to live with both.
History teaches that no empire lasts forever, but knowledge always survives. What we build now will not vanish. It will evolve, just as we do. The intelligence age may not belong to humans alone, but it can still carry our values forward if we choose to teach them.
And that is why this decade matters. We stand at the moment where the boundary between mind and machine dissolves. The future will not be written by code or policy alone, but by the collective imagination of everyone who dares to think beyond the algorithm.
Beyond 2030 is not just a forecast, it is an invitation to design, to question, to imagine, Because intelligence, no matter how advanced, reflects its creators, and the story it tells next will be ours to finish.
If you found value in this journey, explore our companion episodes, The AI Infrastructure Arms Race and The AI Infrastructure Arms Race Geopolitical and Economic Power Shifts. Together, they reveal how power, capital, and code intertwine to shape the foundations of the intelligence age.
Subscribe on Apple or Spotify. Follow us on X, share this episode with a friend, help us reach 10,000 downloads. Help us keep the AI Frontier AI series in business.
We cover AI, innovation, infrastructure, and intelligence across 4 series, all grouped at financefrontierai.com. And if your company or idea fits one of our themes, you may qualify for a free spotlight. Just head to the pitch page and take a look.
Sign up for the 10x Edge, our weekly drop of AI business ideas you can actually use. Each one is tied to a real breakthrough, new tools, models, and trends we catch early. If you're building with AI, this is where your edge begins, only at financefrontierai.com. This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not financial advice, legal advice, or model development guidance. Always verify before you build, deploy, or invest.
The AI landscape is changing fast. Benchmarks evolve, regulations shift, and what is true today may not hold tomorrow. Use every insight here as a lens, not a conclusion.
Today's music, including our intro and outro track Night Runner by Audionautics, is licensed under the YouTube Audio Library license.
Copyright 2025 Finance Frontier AI. All rights reserved. Reproduction, distribution, or transmission of this episode's content without written permission is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.